So, okay, so there have been a lot of books written about Arizona. What is different
Right.
about this one?
Pictures. I would say that's the most important thing. There are more than 520 images.
Wow.
And I say images because there are 20 Maynard Dixon paintings in the book.
Wonderful.
And that's thanks to Dr. Mark Sublette of the Medicine Man Gallery, who allowed me to use the paintings that he owns. But about 200 from museums and libraries all over the state, historic pictures. I took about 200 myself, scenic pictures and historic sites. And then I used professional photographers. So there are some beautiful pictures in the book.
They really
and
are.
some of them were Arizona Highways veterans. Jerry Jocka and Jack Dykinga have photographs in the book. So
Wonderful.
pictures are the most important, I think.
Well, you know, there's a lot in the book, and but today I wanted to talk with you about Chapter 3.
Okay.
Because that is fascinating. It had a lot of information in there that I was not aware of. And that is entitled Spain and the Republic of Mexico.
Right. And I think this is one thing that I wanted to do. I've been thinking about a book for quite a while, and I know the other history books out there, and I just said, you know, when I write the book, or when I run the zoo sort of thing,
Right.
I want to make sure I include the more than 3 centuries of Spanish-Mexican involvement in Arizona history, because a lot of people, especially north of the Gila River, you know, Phoenix is up there north of the Gila, they seem to think that Arizona history starts in Prescott in 1864 with the territory and with the gold rush that happened in that time. But starting as early as 1539, we had Europeans in Arizona traveling through Arizona. And so, and until 1848 with the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo and then the Gadsden Purchase in 1854, then it becomes part of the United States. So from 1540 to 1854, that's more than 3 centuries that the Spanish and Mexican influence was around in Arizona.
So why did the Spanish come here?
Well, they came to the New World. We like to say, historians have a favorite phrase for God, gold, and glory. And with the conquest of Mexico, gold was very important, but also spreading the Catholic religion to the New World. We had missionary priests that came to Arizona as well. So the first wave, if you want to call it that, was conquistadors, and then the second wave would be the conversion of the Indians to Catholicism. But in general, in graduate school, they taught us to go from the macrocosm to the microcosm, to look at the really big picture of what's going on in the world and how that influences. And the reconquest of Spain had a lot to do with how they developed in the 1500s. France, Italy, and England didn't have to drive the Moors out of their country. They went into the Renaissance when Spain was fighting this reconquest. And as a result, they were kind of geared up to conquer at the end of the reconquest. Then they came to the New World in the early 1500s. But by 1540, Henry VIII is on the throne. And they're wearing those, you know, the white stockings and the collars, the funny collars. And the conquistadors came to Arizona wearing armor. And so
I hope it wasn't in the summertime.
Well, they had chainmail, and they also wore, some of them wore cotton quilted armor. But yeah, I don't think they wore it all the time. As they were traveling, they had horses to carry the armor, but they were ready with kind of medieval knights in Arizona.
Wow. So what point of development was the United States then at that time?
What United States?
Well, I didn't exist. I know, right,
1530s,
right.
we have John Cabot kind of tooling around Hudson Bay, but it's going to be another 40 or 50 years before Jamestown is founded.
Wow.
And that's 1608. We just had the anniversary of that. But so there's really nothing going on in the rest of the world. In the United States, that is.
Right.
Florida, of course, you have Ponce de Leon, that's much earlier, 1509. So the Spaniards were in Florida, and actually when Coronado got all the way to Kansas with his expedition, he was only 300 miles away, approximately, from Hernan de Soto, who was coming up from Florida and exploring, I think, Mississippi at that point.
Uh-huh.
But nothing in New England, and of course nothing else in Virginia or anywhere else at the time.
Missionaries.
Yes.
And we've all heard, many people have heard about Father Kino, and say a little bit about that.
Well, Kino first came up into Arizona in 1691 and established some what they call visitas. He would come sort of like a circuit rider, like the Methodists used to go into the frontier by mule or what have you, and they'd hold services, and then they'd go around to different areas, but they didn't really build a church. Kino laid the foundations for the first church at Santa Vera del Bac, probably in 1701. They're doing some more archaeology on that right now, and also at Tumacacori, south of Tucson. And so those missions were abandoned in probably 1710, 11, in thereabouts, but then repopulated in the 1730s. And so there have been European communities in Arizona since the 1730s, permanent.